As this project is concerned, how you have to look at it, we are offering a solution to a problem, a social problem that exists in the society today. So this project, which we are launching in the name of Prabhat, through this project, we are basically offering a solution to all those problems. So what are those problems that we first need to understand that will help us to decide how our approach should be and what should be our intention? The first and foremost thing is that in today's generation, even medical profession has become a money-making business. Right from suggesting the laboratory investigation to the insurance field, everything is controlled by the money. For the commission purpose, unnecessary laboratory investigations are suggested, and this insurance sector is the biggest corrupted sector. I know that since I have worked there in 5 years, so I know to what extent that corruption goes on. So this medical profession, which used to be considered as a noble profession, now in today's generation, it has also become a money-making project. Now, who is getting pissed up in between is not the people who are rich, friends. For the people who are rich, they have ample cash in their pocket to spend. For them, every now and then, full-fledged hospitals are being built, complete AC, air conditioned. The poor people cannot afford to go there. And even if they have been referred to there, the kind of expense that they see ahead of them is quite, heavy for them, and it disturbs their whole economic status and the financial stability. So we are first of all offering a solution to that problem. Now, coming to the second most important problem for which we are offering a solution is the sufferings of the people from the chronic diseases. The kind of cases which are even curable completely, there is no permanent solution available to the patient as of now. Even we all know that even in our fraternity, majority of doctors are into prescribing polypharmacy, patents, tonics, and tinctures, which can make the patient feel a little better, but they cannot afford that permanent cure, which is described in aphorism number 2. So this is the biggest, what do you call it, strength of our project, that we are offering a permanent solution to the chronic complaints that the patient is having. The modern system doesn't have an answer to it. Now, usually, even nowadays, even the layman knows that if they end up having thyroid problems, they have to take medicines for lifelong. Even they have migraine, they have to take medicines for lifelong. Asthma, they have to take medicines for lifelong. Not too many people are aware that they can be completely removed. So we are going to the public with a what do you call it, claim, saying that we will permanently cure your complaints, and that too within 1 year, irrespective of how many years you are having the complaint. That is going to be the strong message that will be conveyed to the patients from our side. The third biggest problem that exists is the cost affordability, even for consultation and the treatment and the medicine part. The kind of money that is spent by people, and that too just for them temporary relief, is far too beyond expectation. There are many people who are suffering and who are not in a position to take treatment, so they are forced to carry on with their life routine activities, adjusting with those complaints. So this project will be a big relief for all the suffering humanity. And as I have already told, that as far as the fees are concerned, which we will be charging from the patient from the third month onwards, we will be considering the patient's economic situation as well before charging from them. Those people who are very poor, still they have got some sufferings, and definitely we will have the what do you call it, we will have the choice to offer them a free treatment if they are not in a position to pay our fees. Definitely, that doesn't mean that the doctor who has not taken, who has taken the case will not pay. Definitely, the doctor who has taken the case and will be taking the follow-up, we will pay them. But accordingly, depending on the affordability, we will be adjusting the fees from our patients. So that will be a strong message that will again go to the public from our end. Now, the next category are basically the people who belong to our fraternity, the homeopathic students, especially who are in their colleges. Now, we will have a parallelly learning platform as well for them. So, there, these ample materials that we will be getting. Now, say for example, we are launching this project with 500 doctors in our panel. So, even if one doctor is getting 2 cases a day, so we will have around 1,000 cases per day. And out of those selected very challenging cases where we have quality knowledge to share with the students, those will be selected and discussed with the students in our separate learning platform. So, for as far as the students is concerned, they will be able to see ample clinical materials, and they will have extreme clinical exposure. By the time they will get passed out, they will be ready to join our platform. So keeping in mind all these benefits that or solutions that our project is going to offer to the common people, we have to handle and tackle the patients accordingly. First and foremost thing that you have to keep in mind is that we have to be in adjustable mode. Depending on the mentality of the patient, we have to adjust ourselves in the sense adjust our way of communication, way of interaction. पेशेंट आपके साथ मजाक कर रहा है, आप भी पेशेंट के साथ खूब मजाक कीजिए, एंजॉय कीजिए. पेशेंट कुछ सीरियस आपको बता रहा है, कुछ ट्रेजेडी हो गई है, आप उसी तरह से अपने आप को एडजस्ट कीजिए. पेशेंट इज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन हैविंग टाइम पास टॉक्स, get involved into only concern talk with him, as long as it doesn't gain that your confidence. So you have to first of all be, you cannot decide that okay, this patient I'm going to approach in this way. So unless the patient will not start interacting with you, you will not be able to judge what is the mood and mentality of the patient. So once you have grasped, that is the first thing. The moment the patient starts speaking to you, you have to grab their overall mentality, and accordingly you have to adjust yourself to take along that conversation for the next 40-45 minutes. Next most important thing is what we need from our patient. We should have a complete clarity in our mind what we need from my patient. If I want to construct the totality, if I want to repertorize the case, if I want to select the simillimum, what should I have? What is the required information that I need from my patient to construct my totality? And secondly, how to trace it out. So first of all, having a clarity in mind with respect to what you need from your patient is most important. So when I say about the quality information that we need from the patient, we are not talking about the common symptoms of the disease. We are even sometimes less bothered about what the disease ultimately is. We are not treating the asthma, we are not treating the migraine, we are not treating the hemorrhoids. We are treating a patient who is having asthma, we are treating a patient who is having hemorrhoids, we are treating a patient who is having migraine. So we have to be very clear in our mind that we need the quality peculiarities of the patient. Say for example, Mr. X is sitting in front of you with bronchial asthma, and you have Mr. Y also with bronchial asthma. So what are those things which separate Mr. X from Mr. Y? Apart from the common disease which both of them may be having, apart from that, what are the unique things which makes these two people separate? What are their life story? What is their life situation? How was their past? How is their present? How was their how is their present? What are their expectations from the future? As a whole, how that person is? How is his mentality? Everything we need to understand. That is the whole essence of case taking. That is the whole objective of case taking, to understand the person as a whole, not just collecting his physical symptoms alone. So at the same time, you also have to keep in mind that the patient may have gone to a number of doctors before they have come to you. So they have an expectation that, okay, the doctors will be asking this. So those expected questions, we should not miss out. Although it may have least value in selecting the simillimum or constructing the totality, but to gain the confidence and trust of the patient, it is important for us to ask the expected questions and to dig it further deep, which no other doctor may have asked. So that will give a patient the impression that अरे बाकी सब लोगों ने पूछा वो तो पूछा लेकिन इतने डीप में किसी ने नहीं पूछा, यहाँ से मुझे रिलीफ मिलेगा. That is the kind of message that will indirectly go to the patient. So those details about the physical complaints that you are digging in detail may not be of much value when you will be constructing your totality, but to gain that confidence and to gain that trust of your patient, this is very important. So as I said, first of all, it is your responsibility to ensure that the patient is made comfortable before you start the conversation with respect to their complaint. So the best solution that I have given you was always start with a casual talk. It can be anything. अभी बारिश का मौसम चल रहा है, the casual talk may begin with that as well. How is the condition in your area? बारिश हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही है? यहाँ पे तो बहुत बारिश हो रही है. वहाँ पे कैसे आपके वहाँ पे? So these are the kind of casual talks that you can start with. Allow the patient to relax. When you start with a casual talk, whether you are doing an audio conference or a video conference, the patient will realize that अरे डॉक्टर so friendly, आराम से बात कर सकते हैं, घबराने की बात नहीं है. No need to panic. I can open up with the doctor very easily. So ensure that comfort level is set first. Then go to the physical complaints. So the initial first conversation, how you start your conversation. See, patient will come and sit in front of us. So we have to begin the conversation. So how we begin and what is the response that the patient is giving us, accordingly, we have to ensure that the patient is made to relax. Have a casual talk with the patient, 2-3 minutes. Fine, absolutely fine, no problem. Then, once you feel that the patient is not comfortable, okay, now tell me, sir, what are your complaints? Tell me everything in detail. So that is how you have to go to that. This is very important, friends, very, very important, and I want to see this happening in each and every case, because that has a big role to play in gaining the trust and confidence level of our patient. It's very important, very, very important. Otherwise, usually the patients have a mentality that why should I trouble the doctor with my own personal problems? They will not disclose it. But when you tell them that you are there to understand everything, that is the need of time. Today, as we all know, that nobody has time for others. Everybody is in race. Nobody has time for others. And when they can go, see the people who are running in this race, their pace will come down only when they suffer from health related issues, either physical or mental. So then they approach us so that they can get cured and then they can join that race again. But the thing that they are not aware is that we are also a part of that race. हम भी उसी रेस के घोड़े हैं, तो हमें वो घोड़ा नहीं बनना है ना? So in a generation where nobody has time for others, see, it's always a good feeling that there is somebody to share your problems with, somebody who is understanding you, somebody who is patiently listening to you, somebody is giving you some positivity, some suggestions and options, somebody is giving you some consolation. It's always a great feeling, friends, for majority. And that human nature is something that we have to utilize in this project. We don't need to wait for the 2 months for the patient to get that improvement. The moment the case taking is done, the patient should get a feeling that, wow, maza aa gaya. That should be the feeling. So to ensure that, you should have a good communication skill. Right from day one, you people have joined this platform. I'm telling you that communication skill is very important. The other day I had shared a feedback of a patient, right, where the patient was feeling that आपकी आवाज़ में, आपकी बातों में वो जादू है कि पेशेंट आधा ठीक हो जाता है. तो यही जादू आप लोगों को आपकी जो कम्युनिकेशन स्किल है उसमें लाना है. पेशेंट शुड फील रिलैक्स्ड. दे शुड वेट फॉर दैट टाइम टू कम कि कल मुझे डॉक्टर से बात करना है, कल मेरा फॉलोअप का डे है, क्योंकि कहीं जाना तो है नहीं. सो दैट अटैचमेंट, दैट ट्रस्ट should be developed, and little bit of homework is required to be done by each and every doctor. Say for example, tomorrow you have scheduled 10 follow-ups, various timing probably. So before you connect with the patient for the follow-up, just revise that case, what is it all about. Because when the follow-up is being taken, in between that, if you ask something related to the personal problems that the patient had shared with you during the first consultation, the patient will get a feeling, oh, doctor remembers me still. He remembers all my things that I've told him. That gives a great impression, friends. And this has a big role to play for our simillimum to act. The next most important thing, after once you have done with the casual talk, you have asked the patient to describe all his complaints. Ask them to tell everything in detail, when it started, how it started, whom all you consulted, presently which medicines you are taking. Tell me everything in detail. That should be your first question, ideally. Not in exact words, but you can modify it. So do not interrupt the patient as long as until he's not finished. Let him finish. In between that, if some acknowledgement is required, if some curiosity needs to be shown, then we can ask those questions, but it should not break the continuity. It should not be an interruption to what the patient is telling. So once the patient has stopped, you have to ask, is there anything else? इसके अलावा कोई और छोटी मोटी anything major minor any other complaint? Let the patient describe all the complaints one by one. In between that, as long when the patient is describing something and you need some extra clarification, you have got a question in your mind, so that is not the time to ask it by interrupting the patient. Just make a note of it. The patient told this, okay, I have to ask this. So for no, you cannot you will not get time to write the entire sentence. But say for example, the patient has told that in 2018 he had an operation surgery for appendicitis. Let's say appendix was removed in 2018, and presently the patient is having a lot of gastrointestinal problems. So 2018, why it was removed? What were those symptoms at that time? The present complaints which are there right now, was it there during that time as well? These are the things that we need to know. But that is not the time to interrupt and ask. So just make a note of it. Once the patient has finished everything, then come back to it. So आपने कहा था, you have told that you got your appendix removed in 2018. So what were those symptoms at that time? And these complaints that you are having right now, did you had it before the operation? So when you are starting to frame a question, just quote what the patient has told as it is. So that will help the patient to understand that, okay, you have listened to it. Next most important thing that you have to keep in mind is that never get into any argument with your patient. Just like boss is always right, similarly patient is always right. So unless the patient doesn't feel that you are supporting his ideas or you are supporting his actions, it will not happen. Somebody who is considering him as done something wrong, you will not bother to discuss the details with you. So you have to ensure that the patient is always, you have to follow that rule, that patient is always correct. Don't get involved into any unnecessary argument with the patient. Don't try to prove to him that he's wrong. Even if you want to do that, do it in a polite way, without hurting the emotions of your patient. So during the conversation, in between the conversation, now initially we will be talking about the physical complaints, right? We'll be collecting the location, sensation, modalities, and complaint. So in between that, if the patient makes a remark or a statement that is his own reaction to his conditions or his own thinking, what he feels about his complaint, or a personal comment or which reflects towards his mentality, you have to grab onto that and then ask connecting questions related to it, so that you can dig much deeper into his mentality, and that will also not disturb the flow. So every time you have to keep in mind that your next question should be framed based on where the patient has stopped. Patient has stopped somewhere, your next question will be starting from there, so that the continuity is maintained. That is very, very important, friends. Do not have a ready-made case taking chart in front of you. Don't make it. Just sit with a blank paper, because everything is going to get recorded. And as I said, at any moment of time, if you get a very important quality symptom, just feed that in that application. At 12 minutes, the patient told desire for company. You don't need to write down the timing. You just need to type it. So that timing will automatically get recorded. So later on, when you will be sitting to analyze it, you'll know that he 12 बजे मैंने लिखा है, तो 12 बजे मैं एक बार सुन लेता हूँ what the patient is telling me. 12 minutes. So that is confirmed. Okay, 1 topic is confirmed. So your task becomes very easy. So you have to ensure that whatever 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or whenever you are talking to the patient, you have to ensure that a smooth conversation is going on without breaking the flow of communication. So you have to enjoy the case taking, and you also have to ensure that the patient is enjoying the conversation. What happens when you sit with a ready-made case taking chart in front of you is that your focus will be more on filling up that case taking sheet rather than focusing on what the patient has to tell. Many times we miss out that. Do not ask any direct questions. Do not ask any questions where the patient can give you one word answer in yes or no. Even if you're asking about, say, anger, frame your questions in such a way that the patient will have to elaborate. So see, patient, when we are digging up the history, say for example, the patient is talking about the migraine. Let's say a patient is having migraine, and for 10 years he is suffering. Well, in these 10 years, the patient can become hopeless. So if you want to know whether the patient is in a stage of despair, how do you ask it? You are not supposed to ask, do you still have the hope, or have you become hopeless? And if the patient says yes, don't take it as a despair recovery. No, that is not the thing. So you can ask in a different way. Itni salon is suffering. 10 years you are suffering. Baap re. Must have got fed up by now. Then the patient will elaborate. Now we are not asking yes or no question. We are seeking his opinion. Then he will elaborate. That will give us the true idea. See, as a general rule, friends, I will not say that it is an unconditional rule, but generally, what is important for an allopathic doctor is least important for us, and what is least important for them is most important for us. So how tactfully you handle your patient is more important. There is no fixed time that you have to speak to the patient for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or 1 hour. But please ensure that before you conclude the conversation, you have the quality information about the patient to construct your totality. Now, how do you judge that whether my case is complete or not? Say, for example, now in this our application, you have the option to mention these important symptoms whenever you observe. So if you are typing 5, 6, or 7 such symptoms, you know that yes, 6 or 7 quality symptoms I have, which can be converted into rubric. So if nothing is left, don't conclude from your end just because you have another scheduled appointment. Don't do that. Allow the patient to finish everything, and at the end of the case taking, when you are about to conclude it, tell them 2 things. One is that if any further information is required when I will be sit out, tell them precisely that I will have to work on this for 4 hours to get you the medicine. And during when I will be setting out to work out the case, if I feel that any further information is required from you, or if my senior doctor feels that some extra information needs to be collected, we may call you again. They will not get offended, friends. So now that what it will do is that you will have two advantages. One is that what, from our point of view, whatever we are missing out, we can make a complete list of it and we can collect it during the next time. Second is that patient will get a confidence. अरे बाप रे, इतने डिटेल में वर्क हो रहा है मेरा केस, अब तो अच्छी दवाई मिलेगी. Now, sometimes the patient may end up making a statement from where you are not getting any connected question to ask. At that moment of time, you need to have a general list of questions that can be inserted anywhere, anytime. And one more important thing is that, friends, if the patient is not comfortable describing any particular event or incident, don't force him at that moment. If you realize that he is not comfortable, just shift to some general questions like appetite, desire, aversions, which can be inserted anywhere without breaking the flow. So the moment you feel that the patient is getting frustrated, go back to some casual talk again. So you have to work tactfully to keep your patient engaged as long as he is speaking to you. That is your skill which you have to develop. See, friends, patients are laymen and they don't have any knowledge about our organ or philosophy. So it is impossible for us to make them understand that these information are important for us. So you have to keep in mind that don't make any attempt to convince our philosophy upon the patient. But when you are asking about the physical complaints, please ensure that you are noting it down. Now, you have, even if you are having an audio conversation with your patient, when the patient is telling something important, that is very important according to him, the more troublesome symptom, you can just ensure that you are giving a patient a feeling that you are noting it down. Just for example, patient is talking about severe headache. So we'll ask where exactly the pain is. The patient says, I know forehead. Achha, okay. And forehead. Which side? Right side or left side? Left side. Okay, left side. So which means that the patient is listening to it and the patient is getting an impression that you are noting it down. So whenever you are asking anything that is related to the physical complaints of the patient, try to give an impression to the patient that you are making a note of it. But whenever you are digging the personal things, ask your questions in such a way that the patient should get a feeling that this has nothing to do with my disease. Doctor is just asking because he's curious to know. Sometimes what happens is that, see, friends, when we are on a journey, so for example, we are on a train journey, many times we get a chance to communicate with the other co-passengers. Sometimes the way other people is interacting with you, you become good friends, and by the end of the day, when you are getting down from your train, you exchange your numbers and then you remain in touch with them, because that first impression has made an impact. So similarly, when you are asking about the complaints, be a doctor. But when you are asking about the present, when you are asking the personal things, be a friend to the patient. So your role is both as a doctor and as a friend. You have to change that roles in between. जी बिल्कुल निखिल सर, मैं वही कुछ प्लान कर रहा हूँ. थोड़ा सा 1-2 दिन का टाइम चाहिए. मैं उसको थोड़ा सा और जो है एक इंटरेस्टिंग एक्टिविटी के रूप में मैं बनाऊंगा उसको, और जो है हम लोग उसको वर्कआउट करेंगे. ठीक है. One more most important thing I missed out, friends, your tone. The tone in which you are communicating with your patient. It should be very soft, polite. You should not sound rude to your patient or arrogant to your patient. Patient नहीं ओपन होगा अगर आप बहुत पेशेंट से रूडली बात करोगे तो, या फिर एरोगेंटली बात करोगे तो. देखिए फ्रेंड्स, केस टेकिंग के बाद, द मोमेंट द केस टेकिंग इज कंक्लूडेड, immediately the patient should see, when they have that extreme happiness now, friends, they will be eager to convey it to someone. So that is our positive point. We are impressing the patient. They should go and tell somewhere that, array, what an app, what quality doctors they are having, how friendly they are talking. That should be the goal, friends. First goal, working out the case, minimum rubrics. We all are here to help each other. See, friends, do you all agree if I say that if a curable case which doesn't have any irreversible pathology involved, or which doesn't have any known obstacle in that case, mental or physical, can be cured 100% with a proper minimum? Do you all agree with that? हाँ, तो ऐसे पेशेंट्स के साथ हमें क्या करना है, मैम? सी व्हाट मैम, लेट मी आंसर इन इंग्लिश, मैम, बिकॉज देयर आर सम पीपल हु डोंट अंडरस्टैंड हिंदी. द क्वेश्चन वाज दैट देयर आर सम पीपल हु आर वेरी रिजर्व्ड ऑफ नेचर. दे डोंट ओपन अप इजीली, दे डोंट कम्युनिकेट विद यू very openly. So with such patients, you need to give them time. Don't expect everything in just one first consultation. Give them placebo for the first 7. Now, if you have not got proper information, then you take up the follow-up of the patient every 1 week, after every 1 week. Usually, if you have selected the simulum and given the medicine to the patient, you can take the follow-up at 10 days or 15 days. But otherwise, if you want to speak to the patient again, your information is not complete, you take their follow-up in 7 days. So once multiple consultations are done, the patient develops some confidence. And still, if the patient is not opening up, you have to speak to their bystanders as well. Yes, ma'am. Even that is exactly what I'm planning for. So have been told that there is some delay to give us the final APK file. Maybe by tomorrow evening or day after tomorrow we should get it. So once we have got it, in the meantime we will revise all those things. And once we have got the app, we will definitely test it out. Right. So let's come back to the revision of the case taking training that we had, friends. And yes, I know that I was supposed to share the application, but it is taking a little bit of delay more because some minor elements they are finalizing. Some errors that they are still getting, they are finalizing on it. They have told that I'll be getting an update by in 2 days time. So accordingly, I'm waiting for it because when we are giving this application to the public, it should be completely error free. So the other day, friends, last time when we had a session, we discussed in detail regarding the basic things that you have to keep in mind when you are taking a case. Now, see, friends, at the end of the day, the whole concept is about making the patient feel better once they have communicated with us. Giving the selection, analyzing the case, working out the simillimum, selecting the simillimum, those are secondary things that will come at a later stage. But the first impression is the best impression. So you should, as a being a part of this application, part of a panel of our doctors, your first intention or mission should be to ensure that you are impressing your patient. Once that is done, our first goal is achieved. So friends, as I said, the first impression, the first thing that you have to do is to impress your patient. Now the thing to understand is that how you can impress your patient. When can somebody get impressed with you, friends? आपसे कोई impress कब होता है ये बताइए क्या what is that what do you call it requirements that you need to fulfill in order to impress a person? In general, I'm not talking about patient. I'm not talking about patient. In general, when you tend to become when you tend to get impressed by somebody else, or when somebody can impress you on what basis? अब मान लीजिए मुझे आपको impress करना है, क्या तरीका है मेरे पास? How can I impress say for example अभी मानसी मैम यहाँ पे ऑडियो डाला है, let's take an example. So if I want to impress Mansi ma'am, then what is the how I can do that? Yes, Nafisa ma'am, all those things are important and definitely makes an impact. You need to be a good listener. Whatever you people are telling are correct. But first of all, try to listen to this carefully. First of all, you should be aware of what the other person is expecting from me. If I'm a good listener, I'm willing to listen whatever Mansi ma'am has to say, or if I'm being very polite to her, or if I'm interacting with her, obviously I think I have a good communication skill. So using that skill, I'm keeping Mansi ma'am engaged. That is not going to impress her. She will get impressed if she is getting what she expects from this platform, isn't it? Now see friends, even if we consider the example of this project, we have a project report ready, we have the financials ready. So if I'm presenting this concept in front of some investors, they will not be interested to know what is the potential of homeopathy. They will not be interested to know what homeopathy can do, how it can cure. They will be interested to know the financials. If I'm investing 100 rupees, what is the returns I'll get? They will be interested only in that. And if I'm showing good returns to them, they will be impressed. So what you have to understand is that, friends, each and every patient who is approaching us through this platform will have an expectation. And we have to realize that expectations, and we have to try our best to fulfill that. So when I talk about realizing the expectations, what all can be those expectations, possibilities? So this thing, friends, applies to each and every homeopath. Say for example, you have impressed your patient. Let's say that Vandita ma'am has impressed her patient, and that patient has developed a trust on her. And tomorrow if she's not available, she'll say that Praveen sir will take your follow up. Then the patient may say that no, I don't want any that person. आपको ही लेना है. It doesn't matter, friends. It doesn't. See, I'm saying this not to show that how great I am or how good I am in impressing the patient. What I'm saying is that we all have to be, so perfect in our job that our patient should not think about going to any other doctor. That can happen, friends, only when you impress your patient, and the patients get impressed when they get that satisfaction, when they see that yes, my expectations are fulfilled. What they expect, when their expectations are getting fulfilled, they get impressed. So in today's generation, we should try to understand, we should make a list of possibilities with which the patient can approach us. One case is one category are those patients, friends, who have got so frustrated, disappointed and hopeless with their complaints. They may approach us with a new expectation. कहीं नहीं वो चलो यहाँ तो हो जाए. In such patients, those who are into that despair state, you can impress them only if you give them some improvement in the very initial phase. आप कितनी भी चुगली चिपड़ी बातें कर लो, वो तो ठीक है, लेकिन जब तक पेशेंट को रिजल्ट ग्राउंड लेवल पे नहीं दिखेगा कि इंप्रूवमेंट है, वो पेशेंट इंप्रेस नहीं होगा. बिकॉज इट्स नॉट, आई एम नॉट ब्लेमिंग सच पीपल, बट दे may have visited so many clinics, they may have visited so many places, and without any relief, they start losing hope on doctors. Getting my point? So such category of patients can be impressed only when we start giving them some improvement and result. Now the second category are those people, friends, who may have earlier taken a lot of medication for their existing complaint, but since there was no improvement, they stopped taking medicine. Now they are not on any present medication, but after seeing our advertisement that in old cases can be cured, they are just here to give it a try. Now how to impress such people? अरे बिल्कुल नहीं मैम, अभी कल जब मेरी बात हुई पेशेंट से, वो कह रहा कि सर आपको कितने पैसे भेजने, कहाँ भेजना भेजो, क्योंकि आपका मुझे एक कृपा करके, दया करके, एक मेहरबानी मेरे ऊपर कीजिए, मेरा फोन उठा लीजिए, आपको फीस देना जितना देना मैं देने के लिए रेडी हूँ. ये उनका कल कहना, कल मेरी फॉलोअप में बात हुई थी उनसे. How to impress such people, friends, who has this kind of mentality? They are not only existing medications. सब बोल रहे कि होता है, चलो ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं. ऐसे मेंटालिटी से जो लोग आते हैं उनको कैसे इंप्रेस किया जा सकता है? The difference between the two categories is that, friends, in first category the patient needs some improvement to get that trust on you, or to build that trust on you, whereas in the second category they have stopped taking medicine for their present complaints, and they have just they may have just come here to try this out option as well. So they are not expecting any sudden improvement. That's a totally different mindset. Are you understanding that difference in mindset? See, the situation is totally different. Say for example, friends, I have some skin complaint, let's say eczema. N number of जगह पे मैंने दिखाया, ठीक नहीं हुआ, चलो यहाँ पे बोल रहा है, चलो देख लेते हैं. तो when I am approaching this, see, I am not that desperate to see some relief. I am coming with a totally different set of mentality. नहीं, होपलेस तो है मैम दोनों केसेस में, लेकिन इसमें इसको फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. वो नहीं जाने वाला था ट्रीटमेंट के लिए. He would not have gone to any treatment, but somebody told that यहाँ सब होता है, चलो मैं भी दिखा लेता हूँ, पहले 2 महीने तो वैसे भी फ्री है. That is a totally different set of mentality. First category, the patient is completely in a state of despair, वो परेशान है अपने कंप्लेंट्स को लेके. ऐसे लोगों को जब तक रिलीफ नहीं देंगे वो कन्विंस नहीं होंगे. लेकिन दूसरी कैटेगरी की मेंटालिटी टोटली अलग है, कंप्लीटली अलग है. In the second category of people, friends, most of the time they get convinced with the kind of case taking that we do, the kind of case taking in the sense the kind of interaction that we have with the patient, the kind of time we spend with them, the kind of questions that we ask to understand that person as a whole. That is something that can impress anyone in general. सो लुक एट द डिफरेंस इन द मेंटालिटी. मैं बीमारी से परेशान हूं तो मुझे बीमारी ठीक करने वाला चाहिए, मुझे अच्छे से बात करने वाला या मेरी तकलीफ को समझने वाला, मेरे मेंटल टेंशन को समझने वाला. इससे ज्यादा मेरी माय प्रायोरिटी इज माय कंप्लेंट. वेयर एज इन द सेकंड केस दे विल गेट इंप्रेस्ड विद योर केस टेकिंग स्किल, द वे वी आर सपोज्ड टू डू. दैट इज क्वाइट गुड इनफ फॉर देम. The third category are those people, friends, who are completely stressed up in their life. Yeah. Completely stressed up. They have n number of physical problems as well as mental problems as well. The easiest way, and for them, see, when you have mental problems and physical problems, what holds priority for you? If the mental symptoms are also very severe, mental stress is also very severe, and physical complaints are also there, then what holds more priority for you? See, getting relieved at mental level will be of more priority to them, although they may not have approached us expecting that from us. Say, for example, a patient is having asthma and a lot of mental stress. When such people approach us, they are approaching to get their asthma treated. But if we are able to relieve their mental stress, वो तो सोने पे सुहागा हो जाएगा उनके लिए. And it's naturally a human tendency, friends. देखिए आज you people are well aware that how much kind of stress I am having right now. I feel so good when I am disclosing or discussing my problems with somebody else who is bothered to listen to me, what the problems are, why the things are getting delayed, why the things are not coming on track, where the issue is. They may be able to help, they may not be able to help. But when I am sharing these and I realize that the other person is curiously listening to that, my problems, and understanding my situation and my problems, it feels so relaxed. एक नई एनर्जी आ जाती है कि चलो यार कुछ मतलब एक जो लड़ने की जो शक्ति है ना वो एक आ जाती है कि to fight against the circumstances and situation. I don't have any physical problem, but still I get relief from there. So it's a human tendency, friends. आप लोग अपने आप को रख के सोचिए ना. Everybody has some of the other kind of stress. So if there is somebody with whom you can share those things, they are giving you some positivity, they are giving you some motivation, they are giving you some consolation, they are giving you some options, they are giving you a lot of positivity, you feel good. General good feeling comes. And in today's generation, friends, as I have repeatedly telling that the mental stress is of priority. LKG जाने वाले स्टूडेंट्स तक को स्ट्रेस है. अब सोचिए ऐसे जनरेशन में हैं आज हम लोग. Nobody is stress free today. So, giving a little bit of relief to the stress by interacting with them in a positive way, giving some hope to them, giving some motivation to them, giving some positivity to them, plays a very important role, isn't it? No, but see, at the end of the day, friends, the patient, when they are telling you their problems, they are expecting you to understand them. They are expecting you to understand how much they are suffering. एक बार मेरी बात हो रही थी एक पेशेंट से, इसी तरह वो अपनी मदर इन लॉ के बारे में बहुत गलतियां निकाल रही थी. She was also cursing her mother-in-law like anything. And after listening to everything, I asked her, what is the age of your mother-in-law? Then she said it may be around 65 plus. तो then I asked her कि अपना काम वो खुद कर लेती है, जैसे खाना पीना हो, चलना हो या बाकी सारी चीज़ें हैं. हेल्थ वाइज कैसी है? तो she said that health वाइज तो बहुत तगड़ी अच्छी है, मतलब अभी आपको और बहुत इंतजार करना पड़ेगा. And then she started laughing like anything. तो वहाँ पे she got an impression that कि मैं समझ चुका हूँ कि इनकी प्रॉब्लम्स क्या हैं. And that is how you can make an impression upon your patient. कोई बात नहीं मैम, जब एडवर्टाइजमेंट करेंगे वहाँ पे जो छोटे अक्षरों में लिखा जाएगा कि टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस अप्लाई. 1 घंटे के लिए है, एडिशनल एक घंटे का पर घंटे का चार्ज लगेगा. So basically the whole core of today's discussion is that, friends, how you can keep your patient engaged. The patient may comes with different mentalities. People have different expectations. Some people who are anxious about their health, very much over anxious about their health, they will have so many doubts and queries. So when you resolve their queries and doubts, and when you give them some specific health related instructions, they will be happy. What you have to do, what you don't have to do, what you have to precautions, where you have to take. So that is what they expect from you. They have approached you for that. They are anxious about their health. They need an advice from a authentic person. So you are an authentic person to give them that advice. So once you have realized that the patient's mentality is that they are anxious about their health, give them some extra precautions. जैसे जो पेशेंट ज़्यादा anxious होता है, मैं उनको कहता हूँ मैडम आपको ये मेडिसिन खाने के बाद 10 मिनट तक आपको पानी नहीं पीना है और ये करना है वो करना है, गर्म पानी लेना ही. They listen to it very curious, with very lot of curiosity, because they have approached us for that only. They don't want this casual talk और टाइम पास नहीं चाहिए उन्हें. उन्हें क्या चाहिए? What is their expectation? You have to feel that. See friends, and this in such patients who are very much anxious about their health, आपको उनको और डराना नहीं है. They may have some partial knowledge about their disease that they may have collected from YouTube and other channels. आजकल तो वही ट्रेंड है ना, पहले YouTube के पास जाते हैं, YouTube फिर Google, उसके बाद हमारे पास आते हैं. So whatever the wrong information that they have with them regarding their disease or its progress, you have to give them that assurance that don't worry, it will be done. That assurance is also something. आपको उनको और डराना नहीं है, but along with the instructions that you give, you also have to ensure that you are giving them some assurity. So what I mean to say is that, friends, you have to understand the patient's requirement. How you can understand that? That is the next question. How you can feel it? That is the next question. So we'll come to that. But first of all, you need to understand what the patient is expecting from me, and accordingly, you have to adjust yourself. Is this understood? So now the important question comes, friends. How you can realize or how you can feel that what is the expectation of my patient? कैसे आपको पता लगेगा कि मेरे patient की क्या expectation है? How you can understand that, friends? What is the other person expecting from me? Say if you are a husband, you should be very well aware of what your wife's expectations are, although it may not get fulfilled in majority of cases. And the vice versa, if you are a wife, You may be very well knowing what your husband's expectations are, although again it may not be getting fulfilled in majority of cases. But how do you measure those expectations? How do you know those expectations? What the other person is expecting from me? See friends, when we started these new batches, giving them these job opportunities under this Prabhat project, a lot of people joined. 5,000 was basically not a big deal for many. But with what intention they have joined, what were their expectations, I could clearly understand when the classes actually started. How many are attending the classes, how many are following it offline, how many are asking the questions, how many are serious, and how many are sleeping. So for those members who are sleeping in sleeping mode, for them, the earnings, the salary was only a priority. No learning, only earning. So how did I feel that? When I saw that they are not participating, when they are sleeping, when they are not asking any doubts, when they are not following the sessions, I can clearly realize what their expectations are, isn't it? When you start taking the cases, when you start interacting with your patient, along with collecting the physical symptoms, you are also digging up their personal history, their lifestyle, their past, their present, their expected future expectation, everything you're digging it out. You're understanding that patient. So as this journey starts, you start realizing what are their basic expectations which are not getting fulfilled. If the expectations that a person has was getting fulfilled, then chances are very less that they will fall sick. We discussed about the comfort level. Batch 7 it is not over, we'll come to that later. But for other batches, we have discussed about the comfort level. So while taking the case, while knowing their history, we realize that where they have gone out of their comfort level, where their expectations were not met. And in many situations, because of this negativity, only they end up having physical complaints. So giving assurance at that level becomes a strong priority for us, isn't it? So basically, the role of a homeopath differs from patient to patient. For some patients, you may be a friend, good friend. Case taking बाद उन्हें लगेगा कि हमें एक अच्छा friend मिल गया है जिसके साथ हम सब share कर पाएंगे. For some people, it's like you are a god to them. भगवान मिल गए हैं. वो भी कैसे हैं patients मैंने आपको सुनाया भी है. For some patients, they think that they have got somebody from whom you can get a proper advice when you are in need. For somebody, you are basically showing them the right direction and path, so they tend to follow you. So your role may be different for different patients according to how, if you are learning to stick with their expectations, if you are learning to grasp their expectations and fit yourself to fulfill those expectations, then you have to play all these roles. For some patients you are a good friend, for some patients you are just like an elder brother or a elder sister, for some patients you are like just like their son, for some patients just you may be just like god. So the perceptions that they give you is based on your interaction and how you interact with them, how you handle them for the initial first 1 hour, isn't it? So if this is being followed, friends, from right from the beginning, then it will ensure that each and every patient, at least 90% patients, are getting impressed with us. And later on, if we start giving them results as well, then we don't need to look behind. We have seen in this platform what is the ideal approach, correct approach of working out a simillimum, and how consistently we can get result if we focus on that methodology, which is not practiced by majority of doctors today. So the product that we are taking to the common people is something that is not available currently in the market. And if everything goes according to the plan, friend, then definitely the people are going to accept our project with both the hands. It will be a big relaxation for each one of them. So your communication skill, how good your communication skill is, has a big role to play in impressing your patient, and that is what we need to develop. And as I have told you earlier also, we will be doing some activities to ensure that each one of us are developing that communication skill. जो लोग छिपे बैठे हैं, जिनका एक ऑडियो भी आज तक हमें मेरा प्लेटफॉर्म पे नहीं आया है, उनको शॉर्टलिस्ट करके उनको आगे लेके आना पड़ेगा हमें, है ना? आपको भी खुद होकर आगे आना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि देखिए ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है फ्रेंड्स. You develop your communication skill. If you develop your communication skill, your overall personality will develop, will definitely improve. I remember going to college in West Bengal, friends, for a presentation. The previous day we went and we booked an appointment for the next day. And then the next day when we went there, some people were not impressed. Like after when they saw me, अरे ये देखा lecture. तो वो लोग बैठे थे वहाँ पे, पूरा सेशन खत्म हुआ तो होने के बाद में two of the professors they came to me and they told that छोटा रिचार्ज बड़ा फायदे, छोटा रिचार्ज बड़ा फायदे, मतलब they were also impressed. So that is what your communication skill will do. And each and every time 75 colleges I have visited, friends, in these 75 colleges, all those people who were seriously interested to learn, they were impressed with my presentation, because that is the impact of communication skill. Ma'am, how you convince them, that matters it. Say for example, if you want to convince a patient regarding the fever, that fever से डरने की जरूरत नहीं है, fever is a part of body's defense mechanism. आप ऐसे ही बोलोगे तो patient ऐसे ही उठ के चला जाएगा कि अरे डॉक्टर को कुछ भी नहीं आता. So how you convince, that also matters, na? And the fun fact is that, friends, whatever we are going to tell to the patients, that is, most of those things are going to be totally opposed by the so-called modern conventional system of medicine. What happens with majority of us homeopaths in clinical practice is that, friends, we try to mimic the allopathic practice. Say if the patient comes and tell you that अरे allopathic medicine ले लो 2 घंटे में बुखार कम हो जाएगा, पैरासिटामोल ले लो, एस्पिरिन ले लो 2 घंटे में बुखार कम हो जाएगा. नहीं, तो हम लोग क्या सोचते हैं कि हमें भी कम करना है बुखार, टेम्परेचर 2 घंटे में, इसलिए हम लोग 3-4 मेडिसिन मिक्स करके जो भी मेथड्स यूज करते हैं देते हैं. So basically we are trying to mimic, but in such cases we have to make the patient understand that that is not going to happen with our medicine. See what real homeopathy is, friends, and what the actual potential of homeopathy is. It is unaware to the public as of today, to majority of public, there are a lot of misconceptions and wrong perceptions that the people are having related to homeopathy. Slow है एक्ट करने में, बहुत टाइम लगता है, फायदा नहीं करेगी, प्लासिबो है या जो भी है. So to convince them, you should have, see, it's, your aura matters a lot. The patient is interacting with you, he is within the reach of your aura, so the patient should feel that aura from you कि कितना confident है तुम. How confident the doctor is, that aura has to go to the, that positivity has to go to the patient. That is your success. Ma'am, the real art of case taking is like that now. The patient don't even realize how these 40-45 minutes have gone by. Because in between, now I think for you're from batch 5, right, ma'am? So we had discussed on the training, detailed training on case taking, right? Where I have shown you how to keep the patient engaged, where I have explained you how to keep the patient engaged. We are in between asking the main complaints, we are in between asking the digging the personal history as well. So the conversation goes in a mixed way that the patient don't even realize कि 1 घंटा कैसे निकल गया. But the real problems comes when you are not good in your communication skill, and then it becomes a paperwork कि आप पूछ रहे हो पेशेंट से पन्ना भरने के लिए, केस टेकिंग चार्ट भरने के लिए, आपको गुस्सा आता है, आपका पेशेंस लेवल कैसा है, आपको बीवी के साथ झगड़ा होता है या नहीं होता है. तो दिस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग व्हिच इज डन जस्ट टू फिल अप योर केस टेकिंग चार्ट डजंट गिव इंप्रेस योर पेशेंट, डजंट इंप्रेस योर पेशेंट एट ऑल. वरना जो इफ यू आर थरोली गुड इन द आर्ट ऑफ केस टेकिंग, वो 1.5 घंटा या 1 घंटा कैसे निकल गया पेशेंट को खुद नहीं पता चलेगा. अरे मैम सी, दैट गोज आउट ऑफ द माइंड ऑफ योर पेशेंट. द वे यू स्टार्ट इंटरेक्टिंग, वो आपकी जो केस टेकिंग स्किल में, मतलब आपकी जो केस टेकिंग तरीके में इतना इन्वॉल्व हो जाता है कि वो भूल भी जाता है कि रिकॉर्ड हो भी रहा है. That naturally happens, friends. That doesn't play a big role. Definitely not. Because देखिए, before the patient opens up their entire things, you are impressing them with your casual talk and the kind of friendly interaction that you are having with them. So when the patient get involved into that, they totally forget that record भी हो रहा है.